It is incredible. Honestly, if we go to look at this and we really take a glance, guys, this meta report is outstanding. If you can see that, if you don't want to count all of it, that is 17 different decks that made a top cut this weekend. And like, if you guys remember the last meta report, in one category was like 30 Ruby Sapphire decks. So the idea that we went from a meta game that had 30 of one deck in a given weekend to a meta game that through 7 different tournaments, we don't have a single deck with double digit in top cuts. I'm sorry. The Hiram ban was correct. We can say goodbye to him forever, all right? Because this is exactly the type of game that I want to play. This is exactly the kind of game that gives opportunity for anyone to be creative, for anyone to really bring what they like, what they enjoy. And, you know, I get it. Listen, I'll be honest. I'll be honest. There's probably only one camp out there looking at that graph that doesn't like it, and it's Sapphire Steel fans. Okay. Yes, Hiram is gone. Yes, Fortisphere is gone. They got hit the hardest. It's not shocking that they didn't really make it. The only list in there was a Kiwi Birds aggro list that kind of made a top 16 or a top 8. I can't remember exactly which one right now. But yeah, so Sapphire Steel went from being basically the most dominant in combination in the set between aggro and item combo and things like that to a measly 1. Big drop off. But at the cost of that, we got a incredibly well, like, versatile diversity metagame. I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah, it's funny. This is kind of the things that we're kind of here to talk about too. Is like we're gonna be talking about the biggest winners, but throughout we can kind of talk about the biggest losers also, which is truly got the win from Hiram Ban. Like what inks got better? What cards really were able to come out and shine this past weekend that maybe never did? Like, in all honesty, like sometimes here and there, a little bit, little spurts, but some of these cards are just great, and they never really got a lot of time to shine before because of the way the metagame is playing out. But now there's a lot more tools to utilize them, and I think that's really cool. So I think that it's nice that with the loss of one of the best cards, if not the best card ever printed in Disney Lorcana in the form of Hiram Flavorsham, we've had a bunch of new cards come out and shine in a big way. So as we get in started that, we're going to be talking about the Ruby cards to start, okay? And like for me this weekend, the Ruby winners were Maui Shark and Moana Island Explorer. That's right. These two cards, obviously Maui Shark was going to be a card that we knew was going to be successful. In the Azurite Sea metagame, DKP came out. He built this Maui Shark combo, like not a combo deck, Maui Shark control deck. And it was all about just really utilizing Maui Shark to the full potential. And with the lack of Hiram and now kind of the understanding that, hey, we have to pivot, we got to move towards a new ink combo or like towards a new like strategy within the ink combo, Maui Shark was going to come out and be big. But the cool thing about this is that this happened not only in Ruby Sapphire, but he also came out to play in Ruby Amethyst. So he was a huge win this past weekend. Lots of Maui Sharks on tables. This, 7-5 is not the easiest card to deal with. It's going to force steel decks to, play a Long Game Zeus again, which maybe not this weekend wasn't a Long Game Zeus weekend, but I imagine that it's going to be a card that's going to be kind of a forced upon thing to play if we're going to have to answer Maui Sharks when they come into play. So yeah, that's definitely the number one Ruby winner for me. But Moana, right? Like Moana Island Explorer here, a set 7 card that honestly, outside of Limited, no one really considered, in my humble opinion. But, this 4 cost, 4/3, 1 lore, evasive with the ability Adventurous Spirit. Whenever this character challenges another character, another chosen character of your gain 3 strength this turn. So obviously the big shine for this card in general is the idea of some of the Amethyst cards that have come out and really just instantly became like a meta shift, which is kind of phenomenal to say. If anyone that watched the meta shift video from last week, I talked about pretty much every Amethyst deck in it, and in all of them except for the Steel decks, I had Peter Pan Shadow. Spoiler, he's one of the big winners also. But when you think about Peter Pan Shadow and what he's doing to answer Diablo, you also have to think about, like, hey, what other cards can benefit from Peter Pan Shadow? And Moana was definitely a card that I didn't have on the radar. It was nice to see it when it kind of came out of nowhere. So I thought that was cool because this card kind of like really changes the course of the game in a pretty big way. And her ability like to come in with Rush because of Peter Pan Shadowfinder, take a character out, buff anything else, let you take a second character out. Decks are going to have to be very aware of that play. I think it's very interesting. I think it's cool. I think it's nice to see that in 1 week, literally in days, honestly, like Tuesday morning last week, of almost 2 hours from now, was exactly 1 week since Hiram was banned. And it didn't take very long for people to figure out these new cards and these new interactions to really be successful in opening weekend in giant tournaments. So I think that's exceptional. It's credit to all the players this weekend kind of coming out and really showcasing their creativity, because Moana, again, I don't think it's a card that many people really had on the radar. So it was nice to see that one kind of like really be successful there. The Emerald winners, it's Diablo and Prince John, right? Like, these are the cards that everyone has been crying about. Everyone's been complaining about. How do we answer Prince John? He's miserable. He's awful. I can't believe that we banned Hiram and we still have Prince John. I don't know how many times I read that on the internet this week, and I just I don't know. Do you want a tissue? Because these are great cards, 100% great cards. And no, there is not a million answers to Prince John, and I will agree to that. Like, there's realistically not that many of them. Most of the ones that you want to play are songs, which innately this deck is playing Ursula Deceiver, and they always have an answer. So it's very difficult to actually get the card off the table. But what most decks are learning is that you can play off the top of your deck pretty well. And in all honesty, you can play off the top of your deck better than Emerald Steel can. Emerald Steel is a deck that's like, it can't win the game. It does its very best to lock you out of it. But the truth is that most of the decks in the metagame are just better than Emerald Steel. They just have better cards. So as long as you understand how to get your point, like to your point in the game that where you're positioned well and you can play off the top, these cards aren't as impactful. Yes, they're very good. Yes, Emerald Steel is going to be a deck in the metagame. There's no denying that. But it's not a deck it's not what it once was. Several months ago during, let's say, the Shimmering Skies metagame, obviously this deck was the best deck in the game. But since then, we've had so many cards that came out that interact with this deck so well. Like, Diablo is not the threat that it was in Shimmering Skies. It just isn't. Like, it has a million answers to it. And now there's a million characters that you can play. There's now even better characters that you can utilize Peter Pan Shadowfinder with. Like, all of these things are happening that really keep Diablo in check. And it's crazy because, listen, shout out to Ryan Miles. He has a phenomenal video on this channel about why Diablo was a problem in Shimmering Skies metagame and why it could have been considered to be a ban. But sets 7, set 6, it just gave us the right card. So it's no longer this incredible threat. Can it still win a game by itself? Yeah, sure, it can. A lot of cards can. That's just kind of his life. If you build a deck that you don't want to interact with Diablo, well, you're probably going to lose. Don't do that. Like, don't build a deck that doesn't interact with Diablo. But when you have so much choice, it's not that hard. We can kind of get away with it, right? And there's one of these is probably shocking. The other one probably not as shocking. All Is Found is a card that I've been playing literally since it was released in Baja Blast. I think it's a card that's very fun. I think it's a really nice shiftable option for that deck. There are multiple cards in that deck that can shift and immediately sing All Is Found, and you can kind of like get ahead, and then you can Ink Geyser and then play All Is Found to get ahead again. Like, you can do all these really fun things with the card. And I think it was really being held down in this way because of Hiram. Hiram is just a constant card advantage engine. And with that, you didn't need cards like All Is Found because like it wasn't important. We could just ink every turn because we're drawing a million cards. It's not difficult. What a card like All Is Found does is it creates these moments where now my Sally Azurite Seas, my How Far All Goes, that got to play, give me an ink and move forward. Well, now I can put those cards into my Inkwell as well. and I don't have to ink my best cards. If my characters are banished, it's like, okay, I can't get my characters back, right? Like in most cases, we're not playing Hades and crap like that. So when we get to just utilize our characters very similar to Great Stone Dragon and utilize them with all is found, it's a big deal. Maui is a card that once it turns sideways once, it kind of can stall the board out. Well, if I can just sing all is found with Maui, hero to all, or Maui Shark, that's phenomenal. It's kind of just doing a lot of great things. So I really think that All Is Found is a huge winner in all this, because it's a card that went from seeing no play at all to being in the winning deck of a 128 player tournament. So huge shout out to All Is Found. I think that's a card that if you haven't yet, you should definitely give it a shot. I've been playing it again since day one of set 7 release. I went to my local game store, 7 Dimensions, and I brought an All Is Found Ink Geyser deck, and it was fun. The card's very good. Of course, the other winner here is McDuck's Manor. Again, winner of the 128 player tournament. Kind of one of the other reasons why Kiwi can still really get through the game if they can kind of manage it pretty well. You can, gain lore through McDuck Manor. There's also versions that play mines and things like that. So there's different ways to kind of like deliver this card, but it basically has become the functional win condition right now for that Ruby Sapphire deck. And it's going to be one of those, just like, I'm going to protect the manor, very similar to protect the castle. So I think it's very easy to say that McDuck's Manor was, a pretty big winner in the Hiram ban, because now you have to just be able to play on a different scale and just like say, hey, I'm going to do my very best to get the most out of these 4 resources and this 9 willpower. So our steel winners this past weekend were without a doubt Doc Bold Knight, Helga Sinclair, and Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. All of these cards were absolute standouts this weekend. It's really funny to think a card like these cards in general can kind of come out, but all of them saw play. All of them were in top 8 decks. Some of them were in multiple top 8 decks. Obviously, Doc had a huge weekend. Helga was a nice card. This is like kind of a sweet card in general that I think was just being held down because it was unnecessary to the metagame. But now all of a sudden, when you start talking about all of these evasive characters, that all these Amethyst decks and all these, Emerald decks that are bringing, Helga starts to look like a really, really annoying card. When your opponent goes shift turn 2 Diablo and your response is Helga Sinclair, what do? They're just like, great. How do I get rid of this card? It gets the challenge through my cove. Like, I don't like, how do I literally interact with this card? I love it. I think that's really sweet. I think Robin Hood coming back is pretty awesome. This is a card that people loved in the Into the Inklands metagame, also into the Ursula's Return metagame. And it's kind of fallen off, really hasn't seen much love. It's popped up here and there, in the meta reports and stuff like that. But in general, it's been pretty down. This past weekend, Robin Hood came out to play. If anything can be found from a Hiram, is that 6 willpower is a big deal. And turn 3 6 willpower is a big deal. Robin Hood can shift on turn 3 and put himself into play and be annoying, much like how Sapphire decks were playing a turn 3 Hiram and drawing a million cards. It's a different type of resource, but it's still saying like, hey, I eat all your 3 drops. I have 6 willpower. I get to gain lore while challenging, and I get to draw a card when I'm banished. So like, he's doing a lot of things. He's checking a lot of the boxes. I think he's pretty happy to kind of be there, right? Like, I think he's pretty happy. Helga Sinclair in a cove can banish all 4 daisies. Very, very true. Very, very true. Of course, Doc, in my humble opinion, is now one of the kind of best draw mechanics in Disney Lorcana. In any world where discard is a deck that you have to be worried about, Doc is a phenomenal answer to those decks because it allows you to kind of like get through the game, resource management as well, and then play a card, lets you draw cards, and lets you immediately get back into board presence. So obviously, Doc is another one of those funny answers to the Diablo discard decks because, like, for 2 costs, you just get to draw 2 cards, and you put a body into play, which is sweet, right? I'm not disrespecting Rapunzel in any which way. I'm just saying that this Doc is one of the ways to draw cards in the format, and it's definitely beneficial. Ironically, it works best in the world with her, right? And there you are. There's our Amber winners, guys. I got Rapunzel here. She's a big winner. Hiram's gone. How do you draw more than one card ever? Well, Rapunzel's the answer. You can draw 3 cards when your opponent allows you to, but that is a big restriction, right? While she came out to play this weekend, while Amber Steel Songs was pretty successful, Amber Steel Aggro not as much, but Amber Amethyst also came out with a Rapunzel deck that had a pretty good amount of tops. And yeah, honestly, this is just a fact, right, Christian? You know, how do you get better than these cards? I don't think you do. I don't think you do. So yeah, Daisy Duck. Anyone watching the ICL last week or last night, guys, watch the ICL last night. The first 2 rounds were literally Daisy Duck dot games. Okay, like turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 Daisy. We're just like, what is your opponent going to do? And the answer was lose the game. So Daisy Duck was obviously a huge winner. Nicely to see it displayed, but Rapunzel, again, when you talk about losing such a card draw mechanic in Hiram, everyone kind of starts to look for other ways to draw cards. And Rapunzel's been the OG. She's the reason why every Amber deck costs more than $200, because you need a play set of Rapunzel to play the deck. You can't play Amber decks without Rapunzel. And if you are, you're probably making a mistake somewhere in deck creation, because the card is just that good when it works. So yeah, I would say that this is a huge win for it. And honestly, the Amber Amethyst deck that's covered in the meta report that's coming out tomorrow, it's a deck that I've been studying a while, like pretty much a whole lot, and I've been on a lot of conversations based around the deck. It's a really cool deck. It's a deck that we've never really seen before that's been successful in the metagame. Of course, Chris Anderson's been talking about it since Azurite Sea, but this weekend it really got to hit tables and got to, I think it had like 3 or 4 top 8s or top 4s in different events kind of over like around the nation. So I think that's kind of cool. So yeah, these 2 cards for Amber, they seem like a duh, right? Like they're just 2 insanely good cards. Either one of them, normally when you can run away with the game, like multiple daisies just run away with any game. On average, when you can draw 3 cards with Rapunzel, you're starting to run away with the game. So both of these cards are just huge. She's $60. My bad. It's just $60. I believe you, though. I really believe you. Rapunzel will never be banned to errata. They will never ban Diablo due to it's a legendary and it's also enchanted. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with the because it's legendary, because it's enchanted. I think that if it were honestly a problem, like mistakes are made, So I don't think it's for him. The most common question it is. And it's like, it doesn't exist. You can replace Rapunzel, but you can't. Like it's too good, guys. It's just too good. Like Julieta, right? The mom from Encanto. She draws a card, not 3. 1 card. It's not the same. It's not the same. I had fun. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. What's your opinion on Ravensburger maybe introducing set rotation format? We'll come back to that. I'll tell you what. We'll put a pin in this one. All right. If I don't come back to this when I'm done the cards, comment again. I'll remember. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. Yes, this is not it. It's not it. She's not a replacement. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing. All right. So last but not least, Amethyst Winners. Amethyst had a lot of winners, guys. All of these cards on screen this weekend, and honestly, there's more than this. I didn't want to fit any more cards. But I know I'm so bad at it. Like, I'm so bad. You got to remind me. When we talk about what Amethyst is doing, and we talk about Peter Pan Shadowfinder, this is a card, and I'm being really honest. This is a card that I was a hater of in set 4. All right. People were playing this card. They wanted to answer Diablos. And I was like, this card is not a good answer to Diablo. It's an uninkable. It's just like, it doesn't have any cards that like really work with it or interact with it. And now all of a sudden you got Iago, Eugenie, Elsa. We talked about Helga. We talked about Moana. Like the list, we talked about Maui Shark, right? Like, Maui Shark plus Vitalisphere has been a combo that, Blue Red's been living on. Well, now we just get to put a dude in play that gains lore, and it interacts with all these other cards and makes them all so much better. Peter Pan Shadowfinder, I think, without a doubt, is the biggest winner from the Hiram ban, because when Hiram was banned, as a community, we all said, and I do mean this, like as a community, we all said, we're not going to lose a Diablo this weekend. And he was just the forefront of it. I love it. I love that, like, inadvertently, we figured it out immediately. Like, no, Diablo, that's a cute bird. Maybe you draw a card or two. Like, that's fine. You're not going to draw 5 cards. You're not going to draw 10. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, we're not going to let it happen. There's too many cards that just banish Diablo now. So I love it. I think that, these cards really are that good. I think it's kind of awesome, right? Like, when you really think about it and see a card like Iago, giant ass bird, right? Like, when you see a card like this be good, it's awesome, because it's a card that no one really was really on it. It did pop up a few weeks ago in some of the Emerald Amethyst decks, because they had realized, like, hey, people are cutting Storm Mage ons, and we're just going to put this card in play. Like, honestly, we talked about it in the video yesterday with Nunez. A lot of the Amethyst Steel decks are playing Strength of a Raging Fire, and that's it. Like, maybe they moved to Zeus, right? Like, that's possible that we're going to have to play Zeus now as an Amethyst Steel player. But, like, if they Zeus, your Iago, that's a 1-for-1 trade. You don't care. If they Strength your Iago, that's a 1-for-1 trade. You don't care. It only really felt bad when they let the Storm Rage on it. It can't be targeted by Brawl. It's just a gigantic bird, Like, it's insane. And all of a sudden, when Peter Pan Shadowfinder gives it Rush, that's cracked. All right, this card is so good. so good. And of course, the library is another one of those cards I think is a huge winner. Rapunzel is something we talked about. Doc is something we talked about. Like, these are cards that draw cards. And library, in some ways, is like an untapped draw potential. If you can put it into play and your opponent just can't interact with it easily, if there's less hideaways in the world, obviously with the more Amethyst decks, it has more potential to be answered. But then really you're making them play devil's advocate, and you're saying, hey, I have 3-4 characters in play. You got to deal with these. And if you don't want to deal with these, you got to deal with this library, and you might have to deal with both. So this is our metagame. This is the week 1 metagame after a Hiram ban. I mean, it's insane. It looks so good. It looks so pretty. It's so colorful. There's so many choices. 17 different decks is a phenomenal amount of choices. So you got to love it. You have to enjoy it. And listen, let me know. All right. If you're watching right now, you're watching live. Are you excited about this? Are you happy? If you're watching after the fact, let me know. Is this like the kind of metagame that you were hoping for?